I didn't plan on coming home early. The deal had just closed, the celebratory handshake still fresh in my mind, when I decided to leave the office. Maybe it was the rush of success, or maybe something else. Maybe my gut knew something was wrong before my brain caught up. As soon as I opened the door, I noticed it. The shoes by the entryway, her cardigan tossed carelessly on the chair. Odd. Katie never leaves her things out like that. I followed the trail of her belongings, each item more out of place than the last, until I reached our bedroom. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of her voice. My best friend Greg's name fell from her lips. I froze, my heart stalling in my chest, every part of me going cold. It was clear from the voices that something was happening between them. I didn't confront them, not yet. I stood there in the doorway, barely breathing. It was surreal, like I was watching someone else's nightmare unfold. How long had this been going on? My mind flickered to the moments that had felt off. Greg suddenly showing up at our house more than usual. Katie, distant, her smile less real, her eyes always somewhere else. The silence between us, thick and growing. My anger didn't hit immediately. It was more like a weight settling on my chest, disbelief, confusion. And then, somewhere deep inside, something colder started to form, a determination. I wasn't going to let this slide. I stepped back, away from the door, my breath steadying. And then, as if the universe wanted to rub it in, my phone buzzed. A text. "Congratulations on the promotion, Tom. You've earned it." The irony wasn't lost on me. My life was crumbling, but hey, at least I was getting a raise. I sat down at my desk, the weight of the text message still lingering in the back of my mind. Congratulations on the promotion. What was it they always said about work and life being separate? That balance I'd just learned was a joke. Everything was tangled together now, and it wasn't just my marriage hanging by a thread. It was my career, too. And then it hit me. Greg. The way he'd wormed his way into everything. The way he'd acted like my friend while planting seeds in my business. I'd trusted him, even when his advice had seemed off. All those times he'd guided my decisions, promised me that certain clients were solid, recommending I partner with people I didn't know. It wasn't just personal anymore. Greg had been influencing my career under the guise of friendship. A twist of realization, sharp and ugly, cut through me. If this went public, if it ever got out what they'd done, I wouldn't just lose Katie. I'd lose my professional reputation, too. I felt the sudden weight of it all. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was an attack on everything I'd built. I leaned back, running a hand through my hair, mind racing. I couldn't just move on. I couldn't just walk away from this. Not when it could cost me everything. I needed to plan. I couldn't bring myself to confront Katie first. I didn't want to see her face, to hear whatever excuses she would offer. No, I had to start with Greg. He was the one who had betrayed me with the most ease, like he'd been planning it all along. I texted him, asking to meet up. No explanation, no small talk. Just, we need to talk. We agreed on a coffee shop downtown. I got there early, sat by the window, pretending to look out at the street, but really watching the door. When Greg finally walked in, I was ready. He spotted me right away, a half smile forming on his face, the kind he always wore when he thought he was in control. He slid into the seat across from me, ordered his usual black coffee, then waited for me to say something. I didn't waste time. I pulled my phone out, slid the photos, the texts, the receipts across the table. "Explain this," I said, my voice flat. His eyes flickered over the evidence, then he looked back at me, calm, too calm. "Tom, it's not what you think." I didn't flinch. "Really? Because that looks exactly like what I think it is." He shifted in his seat, trying to keep his composure, but I could see the cracks. "Look, it's complicated. Katie and we've been going through stuff. You know that. She's been unhappy for a while. I never meant for it to happen." "Yeah?" I leaned in, not breaking eye contact. "You never meant for it to happen, but here we are. You've been sleeping with my wife behind my back, Greg. You've been lying to me for months." Greg sighed, leaning back, rubbing his hand over his face like he was trying to gather his thoughts. "You don't understand, man. She was pulling away, and you were always so wrapped up in your work. You didn't notice." He looked at me like he was trying to make me feel guilty, like I hadn't already been living through the same thing. "Don't," I snapped, holding up a hand. "You don't get to do that. This isn't about me. This is about you and Katie, what you did. Don't try to make it my fault. He opened his mouth to say something else, but I cut him off. I don't care what excuse you're going to give. I'm telling Katie, and our friendship is over. Greg's face darkened, his expression turning more desperate. Tom, please. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. This thing with Katie, it's complicated, okay? We were both looking for something, and Enough, I said, my voice colder now. I don't need your apologies, Greg. I don't need you trying to explain away what you did. It's done. And when I tell Katie, I'll make sure she knows exactly what happened. Greg's hands gripped the edge of his coffee cup, his voice turning low. You need to understand something, Tom. Katie's probably expecting you to forgive her. She's been talking about damage control already. You're going to have to decide how you handle this, because she's already planning her next move. The words hit me like a slap, but I didn't show it. Instead, I just nodded, standing up. I'm done with this. And with you. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I could still feel the weight of what had happened, but there was something else too. Something cold, like the knot inside me was finally starting to loosen. Greg had betrayed me, yes, but I'd just taken the first step toward taking everything back. I didn't text Katie before I came home. There was no need to give her time to prepare, no reason to let her clean up the mess. I walked through the door and found her in the kitchen, staring blankly at the counter. The moment she saw me, I knew she knew. The way her shoulders stiffened, her hand pulling back from the coffee cup she'd been holding. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The silence between us was enough. She cleared her throat, trying to mask the panic in her eyes. Tom, she said, her voice shaking just a little. You're home early. What's wrong? I stood there, still, watching her. I didn't have the energy for small talk anymore. Cut the act, Katie. I know about you and Greg. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, closed it. Then she shook her head, her hands trembling as she set the cup down. What? No. Tom, this is a mistake. It was a one-time thing. It didn't mean anything. I felt a cold, bitter laugh building in the back of my throat. A one-time thing? Really? A mistake? That's what you're going with? She took a step toward me, her voice rising in panic. You don't understand. Our marriage has been falling apart for years. She stopped herself, like she was trying to choose her words carefully. You've been so wrapped up in your work. You didn't notice how much I've been trying, how hard I've been trying to keep us together. I kept my eyes on her, my expression unreadable. So you thought sleeping with my best friend behind my back was the solution? The words came out colder than I'd intended, but I didn't care. She wasn't going to twist this, not anymore. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. It's not like that, Tom. Please. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. We've been so distant for so long, and you... She trailed off, looking at me with that mix of guilt and desperation. You should have seen it. You should have noticed. I didn't flinch, didn't let myself feel the guilt she was trying to throw at me. I noticed. I just didn't want to see it. Katie's voice dropped to a whisper, her eyes welling up with tears. Please, Tom, this isn't who I am. This was just a mistake. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. No. I cut her off, the word hard and final. It's over, Katie. I'm done. She took a step back, shaking her head. No, please, don't say that. I love you, I really do. I don't know how we got here, but I'll do whatever it takes. We can fix this together. I almost wanted to believe her. Almost. But something inside me was shutting her out. The manipulation, the guilt, everything she was trying to pull felt like a last-ditch effort to keep me from walking away. I had given her everything, and she'd thrown it all away. There was no fixing this. Don't, I said, my voice low, steady. You don't get to do this. You don't get to pull me back in with empty promises. We're done. Katie's face twisted, her eyes desperate. Please, Tom, just one more chance. I'll change. I'll do whatever it takes. But I was done. I'd been done for a while, just too blinded to admit it. You have 48 hours to move out, I said, my voice cold, even though I could feel the weight in my chest. I'll pack your things. You can come get them when you're ready. She stood there, eyes wide, like she couldn't process what was happening. I don't know what to say. Please, Tom, don't make this the end. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. My mind was already made up. As I turned to leave, I heard her voice one last time, cracking as she whispered, "I'll fix this, I swear." But I wasn't listening anymore. I had nothing left to give her. I knew deep down it was over. And as I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange relief settle over me. It wasn't the relief of forgiveness. It wasn't even peace. It was the relief of finally facing the truth. And that truth was, there was nothing left here worth saving. The house felt quieter now. Not peaceful, but quiet. Like the storm had passed and left nothing but wreckage behind. I hadn't expected the anger to settle so quickly, but it had. What surprised me was the space it left behind. What surprised me more was how easily I stepped into it. I'd already made my decision to walk away from Katie, but there were other things to consider. People to protect. Myself to protect. I didn't need her or Greg's mess spilling into my life any further. So I started making calls, one by one, reaching out to the people who mattered. Friends, business partners, Greg's partners too. They needed to know the truth. I wasn't asking for sympathy. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just wanted them to understand what had been going on and what was about to unfold. I sent the screenshots, the receipts, everything. Nothing dramatic, no need to make a scene, just the facts. Katie and Greg, the affair, the lies, the betrayal. No room for doubt, no chance for them to spin it. The fallout was almost immediate. It was like a slow, inevitable collapse. Greg's business partners started pulling away, asking questions, getting quiet when I ran into them. I could almost hear the wheels turning in their heads as they pieced everything together. Katie's sponsors, the ones who had helped her build this glossy image, began distancing themselves too. Her social media presence took a hit. Comments, likes, shares, all dropping off like a rock. Every post she made, no matter how carefully crafted, got a little more empty. I wasn't doing this to hurt her. I wasn't even doing it to hurt Greg. But it felt like justice. Like I was taking back control of something they'd stolen from me. I wasn't going to let them walk away unscathed. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, my phone buzzed with a message from one of my colleagues. "Hey, just heard. Greg's company is reviewing his contract. Word is, he's getting cut loose. Looks like they're not happy with him at all." It was the first time since all this started that I felt something close to satisfaction. Watching them unravel without having to lift a finger felt right. Katie and Greg had tried to take everything from me. My trust, my friendship, my life. They'd forgotten one thing. I knew how to protect myself. They thought they were untouchable, safe behind their lies. But the truth had a way of coming out. And once it did, there was no way to stop the damage. I stood there, holding my phone, feeling the weight of everything. This was it. The point where I stopped being a victim and started taking control. I wasn't sure what would come next, but for the first time in a long time, I knew it was going to be on my terms. And that felt damn good. I sat at my desk, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The anger had been replaced with something else now. Calm, focused determination. I wasn't just divorcing Katie. I was making sure that everything she'd taken for granted was taken from her. I'd been through enough legal battles to know how to protect myself. This wasn't going to be a messy, emotional blowout. This was about securing my future. And Katie had no idea what was coming. The first step was the finances. I pulled up our joint accounts and every single statement. I wasn't looking for anything big, not at first, just details. I wanted to know what she had, where it was, and what I could use. The more I sifted through our combined assets, the more I saw how careless we'd been. Shared credit cards, joint savings, everything in one place, everything exposed. But I wasn't going to let that be my downfall. I dug deeper, looking for things I could leverage in the divorce. Our house, investments, the retirement accounts. I wasn't about to lose anything, not after what had happened. I'd spent years building my career, and the last thing I was going to do was let Katie walk away with half. I drafted the divorce papers with precision, pulling from the prenup clauses and the new evidence of her infidelity. The more I worked through it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a financial reckoning. I was going to protect myself, my future. And Katie, she wasn't going to get a dime more than she deserved. If she thought she was going to walk away with the house, the cars, any of it, she was wrong. When the papers were ready, I called my lawyer. I wasn't taking any chances. I wanted to be sure the case was airtight. Every clause and clause executed exactly as I planned. No room for negotiation. Katie might try to manipulate her way through this, but I wasn't giving her an inch. I didn't need to. I had the law, I had the evidence, and most importantly, I had control. I waited. The phone call came later that afternoon. I recognized the number. It was my lawyer. "Tom," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I've gone over everything. The prenup works in your favor. You'll have full control of the house and all assets. Katie gets nothing, not even the car." I felt the satisfaction settle in like a weight lifting off my chest. "So she's not getting a damn thing?" "Nope," he confirmed. "It's all yours. You've got this locked down." For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the phone. Katie was going to walk away with nothing. Nothing. I wasn't sure what felt better, the idea that she wouldn't be able to take any of what I'd worked so hard for, or the thought that she'd be left empty-handed, forced to face the consequences of her own actions. The reality of it hit me. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about hurting her. This was about control. Control over my life, my future, and the choices I made from here on out. It was about making sure she couldn't destroy me any further. And as I sat there, feeling the calm settle in, I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going to get away with anything. Not a damn thing. I told Katie to come by and grab her things on Tuesday. She showed up just before noon, looking like she was trying to pretend everything was normal. I didn't expect her to be any different, but I couldn't help the way my chest tightened as I saw her standing there, trying to force a smile, like this was some minor inconvenience. Her eyes flickered around the room, the house she had once called home, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of acting like it mattered. I handed her the papers, the divorce finalized, and watched as she took them, her fingers trembling just a little. "Tom," she said, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Please, don't do this. I know I messed up, but I still love you. I've always loved you." I couldn't stop the bitterness that crawled up my throat. "Katie, you lost the right to say that a long time ago. You don't get to love me now, not after what you did." Her face twisted with emotion, hurt, confusion, guilt, maybe even anger. But I wasn't interested. I wasn't going to be her emotional outlet anymore. "You're making a mistake," she said, stepping closer. "Please, I'll do better. We can fix this, I swear." I shook my head, refusing to budge. "It's too late for that. Don't do this to me. Don't try to guilt me into feeling something for you. I'm done. I'm not going to keep dragging this out." She swallowed, the tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." I looked her in the eyes, and for a second, I almost felt something. Maybe pity. But that was it. I couldn't make myself care anymore. "You should have thought about that before you betrayed me." Katie looked down at the box in her hands like she didn't know where to put her feelings. She had always been good at pretending to care, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Now, there was nothing left to hide behind. I didn't watch her pack the rest of her things. I didn't need to. I knew exactly how this would go. She'd take the last few belongings, some clothes, maybe a few trinkets she couldn't part with. And then she'd leave, and I'd be alone in this house, in my life, in control of everything I'd built. I heard the sound of her footsteps, slow and heavy, as she made her way to the door, the sound of the box shifting, her movements sharp with regret. The door opened and closed behind her. That was it. I let out a breath, not realizing how tight I'd been holding it. For the first time in months, I felt light, like I could breathe again. The weight of her presence, her lies, the chaos she'd brought into my life, it was finally gone. I walked into the living room and stood there, looking around at the empty space, the quiet now filling it. This was mine now, all of it. No more pretending, no more games. It was just me, and it was exactly how I needed it to be. I needed a change of scenery, a break from the constant reminders of the past. So, I booked a trip to the coast. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just peace, really. Some space to think, breathe, and maybe finally get some clarity. The first morning, I woke up to the sound of waves crashing against the shore, the air salty and cool. I stepped outside, barefoot on the sand, and watched the horizon stretch out before me, endless, calm. There was something about the ocean that made everything else feel small, insignificant even. The chaos I had left behind in the city seemed a world away, like a memory fading in the distance. For the first time in months, I felt lighter. I took the time to focus on myself, on getting back to who I was before all of this. I hit the gym every day, got back into a routine. The endorphins helped, no doubt. I wasn't just working on my body, I was working on my mind too. Little by little, I could feel the weight of everything, Katie, Greg, the betrayal, starting to lift off my shoulders. I spent hours at the beach, just sitting there, letting the wind whip through my hair, my thoughts quiet. It was the first time in a long while that I had felt truly alone, and not in a bad way. I wasn't lonely, I wasn't missing anything. I was just free. The more I focused on myself, the more I realized how much I'd let go of. The past had tried to define me, had tried to break me. But out here, surrounded by the endless ocean, I started to see something else, something better. The betrayal, as painful as it had been, opened a door. It forced me to reevaluate my life, my choices, my future. And as much as it hurt, I was starting to understand that it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I caught up with a few old friends while I was out there, reconnecting over long phone calls, talking about the things I had neglected in the past. People, passions, possibilities. It felt good to remind myself that I had a life outside of the wreckage, outside of Katie and Greg. My career, too, started picking up speed. Deals I'd been working on for months finally started to click, and I found myself gaining ground in ways I hadn't anticipated. The promotion at work was just the beginning. My success was more than just a title. It was a signal that things were moving in the right direction. One evening, as the sun set behind me, I found myself standing on the edge of the beach, staring out at the ocean. The air was cool, the sky bleeding into soft shades of pink and purple, and I felt a peace I hadn't thought was possible. Everything had changed. I had changed, and I realized, standing there, that I was finally free. The sound of my phone buzzing broke the silence, and I pulled it out, seeing a number I didn't recognize. Tom? Hey, it's Marcus. We met a while ago at the conference. I've got a proposal for you. Something big. I think it's time we talk about a partnership. We could do great things together. The words hit me like a jolt of energy. The coast, the peace, the clarity. It had all led to this. A new opportunity. Bigger than I could have imagined. A future I could shape. I felt a grin tug at the corners of my mouth as I looked back at the ocean. It wasn't just my personal life that was reborn. This was the beginning of something new, something I had control over, a partnership, a future, a life built on my terms. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready.